and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for December. Jingle, 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 jingle. It is coming up to potentially being the last couple of shows of 2018 because sometimes I need to have a break. I need to have maybe a sit down, maybe in a cafe, have a little bit of a relax, have a cup of coffee, maybe play a couple of board games. So if I was going to be doing that, I might go to like maybe a pop-up board game cafe. If I was going to be doing that, I might end up speaking to Kenny Lee from the Dice Show Cafe.
Very smooth. I like how you did that. The transition was seamless, I must say.
And you just ruined it by telling it. How you doing?
I'm alright, yeah.
Good.
I'm doing pretty well.
Good.
Pretty busy.
Good.
That's a good thing.
That's fantastic. That's
and
fantastic.
It's nearly Christmas, so yeah.
It is. In fact, it's like, it is pretty much a week today. Pretty much.
Yeah, when you say it like that, I feel like I'm not that prepared, but
it'll happen. Everything will be fine. Everything will be fantastic. To everybody who's out there, hello. The reason that we do this is because there's quite simply not enough podcasts out there.
Exactly.
Where we talk to Kenny. And the second reason that we're doing this is because I spoke to Kenny a while ago and said, "You got to come on the show," and he said, "Yeah, let's come on the show." And then there was technicalities, and then so we rescheduled.
This is technically Mark 2, isn't it?
This is technically Mark. This is kind of like the sequel, but the better bits.
In about 10 years' time, they'll dig out the first recording, and it'll be one of them internet myths.
It'll be like You've Been Framed. More like they'll be putting that on there, just like hoovering in the background, and
the
generally having audio
Hoover
issues, and just
That's an in-joke that only me and you will have.
Viruses.
Oh, the Hoover.
Typical Saturday night. We're here to talk about the kind of, it's close to the kind of like we talk to designers, we talk to developers, we talk to kind of, the guys that do the manufacturing, we've spoken to artists, I've spoken to guys that do the retail side of it. I've spoken to guys that do the distribution side of it.
Yeah.
You're in this kind of almost like the ambassador type space, except without the Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah.
Because
a pyramid of chocolate, I think is a pretty cool distinction if ever. So
there you go.
I'll take it.
You're the golden pyramid of chocolate balls.
I like that.
In the board game restaurant of life. I don't want to say anything else. Obviously one of the things we like to do, obviously, why do I keep saying it? Do you know what? I listen back to me talking and I say obviously an awful lot, like it's obvious that what I'm saying is obvious, and I realise it's just nonsense.
I think there's nothing wrong with underlining everything you say with a kind of a moniker, a word, a distinction like that.
Yeah, but when
obviously it makes obvious sense.
It's like one of those things. It's one of those words that if you repeat endlessly, it ends up sounding ridiculous. So if you keep saying obviously, try it. You can do it with anything. Try the word car. Sounds ridiculous. Fetch.
It's like the more you say it, stop trying to make it happen. Well, I'm going to make it happen.
It's so fetch.
That's so fetch.
It's so fetch. Fetch is going to be one of these things. If I have to do it by my own bare hands, it will become a thing because it has to be a thing. Definitely has to be a thing. How did you get into the hobby, Kenny?
Woo. That was a massive side swipe kind of swerve of the car. I've just held on for dear life, and now we're straight again. Okay, I got into the hobby. I think mostly probably it's a common story, but mostly because I am a board gamer. I play lots of board games. I used to play a lot of board games in uni, in my 20s, and as I think with a lot of people, as I got a bit older, then your hobbies kind of take a more prominent role within your daily life, and then you get this crazy stupid idea to kind of turn it into something a wee bit more kind of public and more sharey, and that's essentially, I think that's the reason why I'm a board gamer at heart.
What was the first kind of games you played? Do you remember?
It was, I think, well, back in the early 2000s, it would have been things that were kind of familiar to most people, kind of the franchise era of like film. So like Risk, Lord of the Rings. I seem to remember a lot of really late nights playing that with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose they were into Warhammer and Magic as well, which I kind of observed because I didn't really have a collection of my own in either of those, but again, it did feature within late night gaming and stuff.
So did you just play then? Did you just like folk were bringing like the Warhammer stuff, and you were like, yeah, give me some of those Ultramarines over here, and I'll have a shot of them. Give me some dice
I was never competent enough to ever kind of play any campaigns or anything, but I observed them playing a lot, and I to be honest, I did paint. I think I painted a little kind of troop of orcs, but
okay.
Just because that's what you do, isn't it? Everybody tries painting them, and they find out that they're quite talentless. So yeah, a very common story.
It's always when I did painting. It's always kind of like I just ended up looking like I'd basically taken my paintbrush and dipped it in the paint, and then I'd taken the model, moved it about 6 feet away, and then chucked the brush at the model and tried to hit it, because it was always big splurges of stuff, to the point that I ended up kind of repainting a lot of the stuff, just like basic colours, because it was just like, this is a disaster. I
never got my head around washes and like not getting your thumbprint on things. I mean, now they have like holders that are like seem really cool, but back in the day, I had a lot of grubby paw prints all over mine. It did not look very good. So I have a lot of admiration for people who actually have a lot of skill for that. But yeah,
and it's the detail that they do as well. Because they kind of like, and they're always really, really humble. And it's not like they're showing off. They genuinely don't think they're kind of like good at this. Like, what do you think of this? And they unleash something that they've. It's
a complete artistry, and like how they're able to paint shadow, like make like some sort of metal effect on what is essentially just matte paint, is just it blows my mind sometimes.
It's is it Ben from the Unlucky Frog? He does a lot of painting.
He does.
And he puts some of his stuff on Facebook, and shout out to them at the Unlucky Frog, because they're our Scottish podcast cousins.
Whoop, whoop.
And I know, but the stuff he puts on Facebook is, I've just been painting this. I just like just been throwing this together, and you're just looking at it and going, "You're amazing."
Yeah.
You're amazing. That's amazing.
I have a lot of respect.
And it's just like little highlight stuff, and he's like getting the dips in, all the flesh colours nice, and everything kind of looks shadows and perfect. And it's like, this is a little computer graphics. So hats off to anybody who can kind of paint like that, because I think he does competitions and stuff. So he's always kind of like at the forefront of these things. So it's pretty kind of cool. You kept your collection kind of up. So did you start going into, when did you start kind of going into the kind of the heavier collecting of the games yourself then? Was that something that you started kind of quite recently, or have you been building up over kind of like a number of years?
Along my larger picture timeline, I would say it was kind of middling. I didn't have that many games like bought by myself, like owned on a shelf. My friends had collections, so they had much more games. They owned a lot more games than I did, and they were the ones that kind of were I was lucky enough to know, and they were the people that brought games that introduced me to kind of newer styles of gameplay. So yeah, I mean, I took action from them starting their collections, really. So I didn't have that much money, but and I suppose I took, in recent years, took that step myself and committed a lot of my own kind of like expendable income to like growing my collection, and I suppose it's just snowballed over the past nearly 4 years.
What was the first game you bought? Do you remember? What was the first game that you kind of really kind of took
pride in buying?
Yeah. I've never heard of that game. How do you spell it?
That would be an interesting game, wouldn't
it?
I know. I don't know. For me, I remember watching a lot of Dice Tower and taking a lot of their sort of like recommendations on. So I remember like looking up. I remember looking up blank 5 Tribes. I remember buying that and being like, okay, yes, this is like pure unadulterated kind of like Euro gaming strategy. This is it.
I'm a board gamer
I don't know
now.
much about. I don't know much about this title, but it's been recommended to me by Z Garcia. I'm going to take it, and I loved it. I really liked it. So maybe that's one of the more distinct ones. I don't think that's that old a memory though. So, but it's distinct enough that I remember taking a chance on a very unadulterated Euro style board game and really loving it.
Is there a style that you go for in terms of games? I mean, did that help forge your style? Did you kind of stay with the Euro stuff, or did you kind of like say, well, was it a case you were quite willing to kind of like try kind of other genres, other mechanics and stuff like that? Did you end up building up quite a wide kind of different collection?
So I suppose if we say that my early board gaming started with like Risk, that's like unadulterated sort of like, Ameritrash. It's a bit of a weird term that, but like, people use it. So like, player to player conflict. That's when I still really like that. We started playing more Euro type games. I remember playing things like Pandemic when it came out, and obviously Carcassonne and things like that. These were the kind of the classics that we played early on, and I really liked that style. And then we played stuff like Relic and Battlestar Galactica, which were more involved plays and more kind of like deep kind of player interaction, and longer strategies and longer kind of longer length games with kind of long-term payoffs and things like that. So those things always fascinate me, but I do also remember playing a lot of, I think, when Cards Against Humanity was just a downloadable game, I remember downloading that and print and play, a free print and play. I remember that, and it wasn't published as a physical game, I don't think. And we printed it and we cut it out and we played it, and maybe we started doing a lot more social games, and that's a genre or style of game that I probably do take a wee bit of time and effort to buy a lot of now for Dice Roll, for the Dice Roll collection, because for me that style is probably like an easier sell for casual people So that, to be honest, I mean, I've covered a lot of distance here. I'm probably like a really kind of omnivoric sort of like grazing person that really does enjoy a diversity in a diet, you know?
You're a
So
cow.
I'm a cow. Well, no, they don't. They're not omnivores, are they? I'm
I
like
suppose they're not, no.
a raccoon.
You're a raccoon.
I'm
Kenny
like
Lee, raccoon
a
to the
little
stars.
weird looking trash panda who like loves
Those-
to rummage in
But
people's trash. And oh no, wait, I'm going too far with this
I'm just
analogy,
taking
but
it.
I do like
and do you know what? I'm just
a lot
letting
of
you run away with
diversity.
it because it's fantastic, and it's just like there he goes off into
Kenny
the
Lee,
garbage.
trash panda of Glasgow board gaming.
There you go. That has to be on a t-shirt now.
Trash panda.
That has to be on a t-shirt now. When you were, Dice Roll itself, when did that come about? Because I see people go into different ways of doing things. Because obviously you get like, say, you get people going and saying, right, I've got an idea for a retail establishment, like Shaz, yeah?
At Settlers.
And, at Settlers, yeah. And they went ahead and they kind of like put together, they built Settlers out of nothing, got it established, turned it into a full kind of retail premises. But yeah, as I say, you're kind of like more kind of like the ambassador type of thing, as in it's probably you do as I say, a really, really important job to kind of help people maybe get into the hobby, which aren't getting into the hobby. And by you saying to me that, you concentrate a little bit on the social gaming, that also suggests to me that that's kind of potentially a modus operandi. But what made you make the decision to say, right, actually, I'm going to start something up, but it wasn't going to be retail. I was going to start something up which was almost like experience based, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
That's what I would call you. I wouldn't say you're retail because it's almost like
a peddler of moments.
A trash panda of moments.
Trash panda, peddling of moments.
You're going to need a bigger t-shirt. You're potentially going to need a scarf.
A scarf, yeah. Perfect for a scarf.
But then what made you decide, actually, I'm going to sit... I've got these games now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and actually put something together, an event. Was it a case where you're thinking about just like putting together a one-off event, or did you plan from the very beginning that this was going to be something that was going to be a regular thing? How did it kind of come about?
I think it's true, and to my vision and to me, maybe to my understanding of what I've been doing for the past 3, nearly 4 years, I'd say it is true. That I kind of want to do that whole ambassadorial kind of thing. I think because I'd by that point been enjoying the hobby so much and getting so much of it, so much out of it myself, that I kind of like looked at it and was like, this is like such a rewarding activity to do, and I feel much healthier and much more happier doing this on a regular basis, gaming with my friends, that I just can't believe that there's not more people that do this, and that it's not like a regular mainstream sort of activity to do. And I think I wanted to kind of spread the word a wee bit. Like, it sounds a wee bit evangelical, a wee bit sort of like I have the gospel and whatever, and you must hear my words, and if you hear my words and you hear my rules explanations, you're going to join me at this kind of altar of cardboard and plastic cubes.
I feel I need to jump in here before you say something completely, but no, I totally get where you're coming from, because and I say this, and I've had conversations about this in the past, that if you're outside the hobby, how easy is it to get involved in the hobby? Once you're in the hobby,
yeah, I think it's really addictive.
it's like going on holiday and the pool's not heated. And when
I have to explain that.
if you're sitting, bear with me, because this metaphor just might work. This analogy just might work. Okay.
Continue.
If you're standing at the pool and the sun's beating away on your back and you're feeling lovely and warm, and you go and test the temperature of the pool. Now, the temperature of the pool is the board gaming hobby, right? If you stick your foot in just very quickly and you're going to get a shock. It's going to be, oh, this is cold. This is quite scary. I'm not sure about this, right?
Yeah.
But once you take your time, and depending on if you use the gateway games, of also known as the steps, into the swimming pool, once you get used to being in there, you've then got the entire swimming pool to swim about in. You're right, it is a rubbish analogy, but I put an awful lot of effort into this, as in all 5 seconds in my head.
I like it, and I think I know where you're going with it, isn't it?
Is it once you're in there, it's like
ankle deep.
It's an experience. Once you're in there, it's enjoyable. It's fun. You forget about, maybe how intimidating it was at the beginning. Because let's face it, if I went and shown, say, a friend at work, if I said to them, okay, here's a list of here's a list of all the board games that were announced for 2018. And once they got to page, 16 or 72 or whatever, you can imagine saying, okay, what game would you like to play? They'd have absolutely kind of no idea.
Yeah, it is. I would say board gaming is quite easily a very overwhelming idea to a lot of people. I will admit that along the way over the past 3 to 4 years, I have lost a lot of people. And the points at where I've tried to introduce somebody to the board gaming hobby, and I started off too deep, or I started off from the wrong angle. I have learned slowly and eventually, and I'm generally successful now, but not 100%, but generally I'm quite successful in introducing people in the right way, because actually, as much as I think that there's a wide appeal to board gaming and the styles of gaming, you really have to kind of have a good idea about what exact angle or trajectory to kind of approach board gaming with the individual you're dealing with. Often people, especially if they're casual, they'll kind of come along to dice roll with the idea that they kind of have enjoyed board games before, but they don't know that much, or they've got a limited experience with a limited number of titles, and you do have to kind of ask them a few sort of questions to start off with, what sort of games do you like already, and you will get such a unique and individual answer from a lot of people. But normally the best way is to ask them about what did they enjoy, what specific memory why did they come along, and they'll normally tell you a story about how their friend plays this game and they liked it and they wanted to know more, and I'll normally try and base my recommendations up on what they tell me. And I suppose I'm trying to to continue the pool analogy. I'm kind of trying to get them to kind of walk a wee bit further in the shallows. They've already maybe dipped their toe in the water, and they're intrigued, and they want to go and swim out off the shore a wee bit. They want to go a wee bit deeper, and because people say it's lovely in there. And I suppose I'm just trying to coax them a wee bit further and kind of tell them routes at which they can approach the deeper water, because I think it is often about keeping close to what your initial feelings are, your initial like types of gaming that you like.
Yeah.
Holding on to that initial, and you might find you might enjoy a really a big difference in or a big range of genres, but I think sticking to what you do know is a good way to get in a wee bit further.
No, totally. I think that, and I was talking about this very recently about because somebody being in the board game hobby or starting in the board game hobby doesn't necessarily mean they're going to like the same board games as you.
Uh-huh.
And I think you can't assume that everybody who starts in the hobby is instantly going to be moving from playing, Love Letter, and you give them 6 months down the line and they've just, they're bragging how about they just spent, 11 and a half hours playing Eclipse or Twilight Imperium 4 or something like that. To be honest, I'm not that type of person who would probably sit down and play Twilight Imperium 4 or play Eclipse. The idea of spending an entire game day kind of like enthralls me and interests me, and in some ways, intrigues me to actually see what that's like. But I know it's potentially something that might not happen due to, life and other things kind of getting in the way. So, while I might like it to do so, I kind of stay within certain ranges of games, which I know I can play within 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Quite easily,
I definitely feel like I have learned that people definitely have their preferred limitations. Of course, if somebody has fun, they can surprise themselves and play for a much longer game or a longer time, but often people will just drop in for a couple of hours at Dice Roll, even though we're there for the whole day. We start at 1 normally, and then we're on till the pub closes. People are still playing at 11:30 up to 12. And some people spend the whole day there, and that's great. And they get so much out of the day. But there's some people that do just pop in for a few hours. They hit their maximum, and they never really play massive involved games that last that whole time, but they're happy just paddling with pretty easy casual games, but they'll get a lot done, and then there'll be people who who'll hunt out a good 3-hour game or 4-hour game, and they'll do 2 or 3 of these during the whole day. So I mean, that's one thing that I witness is a big diversity in gaming styles and gamer types and personalities, I suppose. Yeah, definitely.
How did you get on the venue then? I mean, how did you manage to secure that? Because, I mean, it's a difference between, me going to, say, Dwarf on a Friday, and then it's it's a community hall owned by the council. The club rents out between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock, depending on what's happening, and then everybody disappears. I mean, again, obviously going back to the vision that you originally had, did you have to search around kind of a few venues in order to get something that would, was going to fit, was going to be right for you?
I didn't really need to hunt around. For me, when I started off, I was quite flexible about it, or at least I was willing to kind of just compromise and just see. It was at that time there wasn't too many things on that were similar. I mean, there was regular gaming groups on, but in a way, I was kind of trying to do something else as well. So for me, I was fairly willing to compromise on things, and I suppose I was just speaking to a few friends of mine, and they knew somebody who was, well, one of my friends really. Lisa, she worked at Saramago, so in the cafe bar in the CCA, and she was like, well, if you can't find somewhere, you're always kind of maybe welcome to come and see, what space we have there. And I was kind of familiar with it, but going to visit, investigating the place, I knew that vibe had been there before, and I knew the vibe of the CCA and Saramago is very chill. Like, they're really nice people, everybody who works there, and as a cultural arts centre, it had that sort of dynamic sort of diversity there that was kind of accepting and that was like kind of up for it, and they had that space upstairs in the cafe bar in Saramago, which has like a separate little it has like a little function room at the back, but it also has like all that bar around the front, and it gave me a space that I could kind of imagine a setup in the back, and then if we were busy enough, we could always kind of spill over to the bar. So it was a flexible enough space in my head, and it does work, and it works perfectly now actually for the scale that we for the scale of the dice rolls that we do, and for the people that come. It's a really flexible, friendly space. It also, Saramago have a very good reputation in terms of like food. That they serve a very robust and very tasty vegan menu. The bar upstairs itself isn't vegan, but the kitchen is downstairs, which is where they make the food. So I did like that idea that this is a place or a venue that had a certain reputation when it came to to food, to being a place that is already popular with a certain crowd, that maybe like gamers would be interested in combining those two things, like gaming. I think the first year or so, we kind of like as a kind of tag to it all, it was like good food and good gaming and good company, essentially. It was like that sort of like trifecta of what makes a great long a great Sunday afternoon or Sunday day is those three things. And that just because you like games, doesn't mean that you can't be sociable and like to hang out and have good food and good beers and good drinks. Like, it's, I think for me, gaming was complementary to that as well as being key, and it's like this kind of Venn diagram of what a really good Sunday is for me, or like spending time with friends and eating well and gaming. Like, I think maybe that was what I wanted to create in that venue in Saramago.
Did you have to do a lot of advertising? I mean, do you remember the first one that you did? I mean, did you have to do a lot of kind of noise creation, making people aware of what was happening? And I mean, how did the first one go that you ran?
I'm trying to actually think about how many people came. I think it was moderate. It was like, I don't think it was like a. Oh no! Well, no, wait. I think we got like a pretty good reaction. I think like when I created the event on Facebook, I think we did actually get over like 100 people saying that they would come, which is like a fantastic response. I think what I did was I just started the page with quite a distinct sort of like aesthetic style or branding to it that was clearly something that was thought out, that was colourful, that was I did like take photos prior to having our first dice roll of like my own friends playing games, and I did choose things that were kind of games that were kind of familiar to me as a gamer, but also games that I knew were familiar with a lot of broader audience. And I remember I remember quite considering thinking about a lot about what sort of strategy I would take to convincing casual people to come from the offset. So for me, that was like quite a clear visual branding to that certain sense, like the pink and the color and the nice photos, like I wanted it to be to have a certain language that was familiar to people that like to go out and do like things, like go out and have meals and meet up with people and stuff like that. So I think with that decided upon early on, I think the response was pretty good. Like I think I shared it a lot with kind of existing gaming groups.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sarmago and the CCA shared as well. But I think at that point, board gaming was kind of booming, and in a way, it was at the right time that I started doing it. So,
have you let it kind of grow? Have you let it kind of grow organically? Then, I mean, have you let it kind of grow its own kind of arms and legs, and kind of form its own kind of identity in how generally a day runs? Was it a case of kind of like, let's kind of see what happens, as opposed to, right, everybody gather round because between 1 and 2 we're going to be playing, we're going to be playing Love Letter, or we're going to be playing One Night a Werewolf? Did you have to almost kind of like see how the first couple of times went, and has it settled into kind of its own kind of pace and its own identity without you having to kind of mould it, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would definitely say that I kind of take a bit of a backseat with it. Like I don't really. I try and put on. I try to organize like maybe like a large social game in the evening as like a bit of like a cap off to the day, but I generally just let things take over. Like I'm. I mean, I've had like a few really amazing people over the years who've helped me out, like Alex and Lawrence and things like that. But it's generally been like something that I've been like the kind of sole organizer to. So resource-wise, as far as what I'm able to do myself, I've not really been able to do that much hands-on things. Certainly not on the day, like you're there and there's like, 50, 60 people sometimes there, and I try my best to kind of say hi to people when they come in, and then help people who are there for the first time, or like people who need some rules explanations. But I'm just one person, so I definitely kind of, maybe out of necessity, just kind of rely on it just ticking over and just happening without me. To be honest, I don't think gamers really need much guidance. Maybe people who are there for the first time, just as a reassurance. But even then, people like very quickly find what works for them. So
okay,
I don't interfere too much.
Okay.
It's like a very natural process. I mean, if people are having fun, they'll keep doing what makes them happy.
And I mean, fast forward to now. I mean, earlier this year, you ended up kind of being involved in kind of Tabletop Scotland. You were involved there. There was kind of like a bit of drama around that. It was a kind of a last minute, because was it the games library that you have, you stored it at the art college? Is that kind of right? Yeah.
Not at the art college. It's it's the majority of it is it stays in the Saramago
All right.
cafe
Okay.
bar.
Yeah.
So it wasn't in art school, thankfully, but it's close enough to art school that when the art school fire happened in June, it had like a much larger, it had a big impact on the buildings around it, and because the CCA and particularly the cafe bar kind of looks directly opposite, it was kind of well within the exclusion zone that the fire and building control and the council kind of excluded the city blocks that kind of surrounded that large fire, and so the CCA was kind of closed as a building for months and months, nearly 5, like 4.5 months. They didn't let anybody enter the building just because of the danger of the art school kind of like collapsing and kind of like like someone getting hurt from that and
Yeah.
things. So that was the reason why we didn't have the library available for Tabletop Scotland.
Yeah. Okay.
But thankfully it all kind of worked out for the first year. Darius from Uncon and all around the board came to the rescue and drove his entire collection of hundreds of games all the way from Kent up to Perth, and it worked really well. I operated the library on the weekend, and with some help from Lawrence and the guys from Uncon as well, including Darius, and that was a really big success. And well, thankfully, I've been invited back to doing the second year. So this coming end of August, I'll be back running the library. So that's something to look forward to.
That's pretty cool. What's the future? I mean, do you sell games at all then, or is it just purely kind of you sell obviously the food sold at the time? Where do you make the money from? Do you do kind of any type of retail for the Dice Roll Cafe at all?
So as of yet, we've not really ever sold anything except like the wee library admission that we have. So like Saramago, I suppose as part of the arrangement, they take all the kind of the drinks and the food kind of revenue for hosting it. I mean that's fair and right for them. So we really just kind of just take that £2 admission to kind of use the library, and then use that money to kind of reinvest into the upkeep of the library and like buy a new game once in a while. So I mean that's worked out fine, over the past 3-4 years. It's allowed us to kind of like really expand the collection. It's grown like a huge amount. Well, a lot of that is my own games, like just me buying games that I like as well. So that's part of the reason. But certainly the admission really does help to kind of upkeep it and buy some resources here and there. But I suppose it's not really a business model really. It's definitely, I would say, like a bit of a passion project for me. Not to say that in the future we won't try into, but I mean we've done other things. Going back to what you said about like the experience, sort of like making experiences, we have done like a couple, like as part of that whole sort of pop-up identity, we have done like a few pop-up events. So previously, when we've done gaming days in Fika, which is unfortunately now closed, it's a cafe that used to run in Partick. We have done like dining events. So hopefully in the next year we'll be doing a few of those if people wanted to, like look out for that. And normally these are kind of like, straight up kind of experience evenings where you can like eat and drink and kind of like play games hosted by myself and things like that. But normally they'll be like designed around like a really distinct or really kind of immersive theme. The ones that we did 2 years ago at FICA were kind of werewolves, kind of gothic evenings. That was a project that I was really proud about because it was kind of like a bit of a gamble for myself, just doing by myself.
Yeah.
And the feedback we got was like really amazing. People really, really enjoyed it, and they have subsequently asked when I was doing it, but because I was doing it by myself, it was actually really exhausting and really, really stressful to do. But we'll hopefully try and do that this year. So that's something to look forward to.
Cool. I mean, it's, as I say, it's not like it is, as you say, it's like a passion project. It's like kind of all the people creating content out there. It's like all the people that are doing kind of like, you know, the podcasts and the videos, and you're just another person that's helping kind of spread the word of, you know, how interesting the hobby can be. I guess, continuing an analogy, helping people kind of jump in the pool. In terms of, obviously, it's as we said at the opening of the show, it's very, very close to when the fat man comes down the chimney.
That's a nice way to put it, yeah.
That is a nice way to put it. Is there anything that you would like to, you know, have on your Christmas list? You know, if there was 3 games that you could have, and they could be any games at all, what's it you would like to add to your collection, Kenny?
I almost feel like I really should not ask for any more because I've got like several games I've not played. So really, maybe as a request, I would like maybe make a wee wish to say that could I get like a day off where I can like actually pull out these games and properly play them?
Of course you can.
Recently I got Cerebria, which is the same really guys.
Yeah.
Which is, but it's sat in my flat and it's not being played, and I would just like to like really just sit down and properly like investigate it and play it because it's such a pretty game, and there's like so many games that I own that I've not been able to play because I mean, working full time and then organising dice rolls, I've had to actually sacrifice a lot of personal gaming time. So yeah, and there's lots of really interesting Kickstarter rewards that I've gotten over the past few months that are just being left unplayed. So
time,
yeah, that would be my request. Yeah, okay. Time.
And where can people find you on the internet webs if we want to find you, Kenny?
If you want to just, I suppose, we operate most of our kind of stuff on Facebook. So if we have a Facebook page, it's under Dice Roll Cafe. You could probably find us. Well, you'll find us on Twitter under Dice Roll Cafe. It's all under Dice Roll Cafe, so really on Instagram you could find us. We do have a website under construction. I've been the one that's responsible for it also. Like, I've not really managed to finish it, but hopefully I'll be wanting to like maybe publish a few like just like conversation piece articles or blog entries on the website in the coming year. You could probably just find us on every Saturday, physically. You could pop into Sarmago at CCA, so just pop into the Suckyhull, I think it's 350 Suckyhull Street, and I think that's something that I would encourage everybody to do because resources like the CCA, the Centre of Contemporary Arts, are things that have really suffered over the past year, and really just kind of footfall and people coming and visiting the facility would be really amazing. And yeah, I think we shouldn't be too hard to find.
Excellent. Well, what we'll do is we'll make sure that we put all those links in the show notes so that we have notes to show. Awesome. If you want to find out where we are, then go to the internet webs and you'll find us on Twitter at We're Not Wizards and Facebook at We're Not Wizards and Instagram at We're Not Wizards. We're still on Tumblr, but RIP Tumblr. We're still we're on our website, which is we'renotwizards.com, and our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com. You're also going to find us on all the podcast catchers like Stitcher and Spreaker and Acast and all those fabulous, wonderful places. As we say, if you like what you've listened to tonight, and Kenny's been a fascinating guest to speak to, then
thanks.
Tell somebody else.
Yeah, spread the word.
Spread the word. If you like us even more, then go into Apple Podcasts and can drop us a subscription. If you like us even more than that, and it's Christmas time, for goodness sake, and it's my birthday on Friday, then go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Drop us a rating or drop us a review. If you are going to give us a rating or review, don't give us 10 stars because it makes us big-headed. But don't give us 1 star because it makes us cry. And I am getting old, and every time I have a frown, it does get these crow's feet a little bit deeper, and we don't want that, do we?
Well,
no, give us a 5.
A little bit of history would be good. But yeah, a good, comfortable score. Maybe 7. That's good.
No, give us a 5. Because it's in the middle and it's average, and we're just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average today is a rather wonderful, rather fantastic Mr. Kenny Lee.
Oh, thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
You're just a buttery biscuit, yeah. Just a joy.
Thank you. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Kenny?
No, we're admirers of magic, but not wizards.
Don't. Close enough, I suppose that'll do. And the second thing is to say goodbye, so it's a goodbye from Kenny. Say goodbye, Kenny.
Goodbye, Kenny. Oh, goodbye.
Every time. Every single time. It's like I'm instructing you to say it. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll6s.com. If you're in Glasgow and you fancy playing some games, go along to the Dice Roll Cafe. Yeah. There you go. That's the worst song in the middle. Alright, pal. And until the next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.